Good morning. Welcome to our webinar today from Project Plan Services in collaboration with Stockport Metropolitan Borough Council. Beyond the spreadsheet, modernising the public sector with Smartsheet. It's a lovely sunny morning here today in Leeds. I hope the weather is kind to you wherever you are. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce your presenters for today. Myself, Pete Alanak, Director of Project Plan Services. Andrew Gerrish will be on hand to answer any questions we have. He's Head of Consulting here at Project Plan Services. And we're really excited to be joined by Chad Doyle, Transformation Programme Manager at Stockport Metropolitan Borough Council. A bit about PPS, Project Plan Services. So we're a Smartsheet Platinum Solution partner in the UK. So we provide Smartsheet solutions for our clients. Smartsheet is a cloud-based work and collaboration work management solution. And we've been working with Smartsheet for about 14 years now, providing solutions to organisations, small, medium and large, across all manner of industries, serving all kinds of different use cases and requirements. But a particular focus, and something we want to talk about today, on the public sector for councils, for example. And I'm going to hand over to Chad now. So Chad, without further ado, over to you. Let's hear about your experience at your council with Smartsheet. Over to you, Chad.
So, as Peter says, my name is Chad. I work for Stockport Council. I'm a transformation programme manager. One of the pieces of work that I was asked to look at a couple of years ago was kind of how we begin to manage projects better across our areas of work. So I work across a couple of directorates. So I work across corporate support services, and I also work across place. So working and supporting large capital projects as well. So one of the things we started to look at was, what were our reasons for change? Why did we want to make a change around the differences? So we had a lot of fragmented tools and processes. So we had around 30 or 40 regular people working as PMs across all of the different departments, all using different tools, all using different processes. So we didn't have any standardized templates for project management. We had people using Excel, some people were still using notebooks, some people using Project and Planner, and just we already had some people working on Smartsheets. So we wanted to look at trying to consolidate those tools and get some processes in place. We had limited visibility around those projects. So what were people doing? Who was accountable for what? Who was missing deadlines? How were those tasks divided up? There were different levels of kind of people's ability to do that and manage those things. So we wanted to be able to support people with that as well. We had some scalability issues. So in terms of the use of some of those tools, how we grow those, how we get that bigger and better. There's some issues around Planner and some of the capabilities of that and how we made that bigger as well. And there was no easy way to replicate templates. And easy is the key part there in terms of that's all replicable in all of those projects and all of those bits of software that are being used, but actually taking from one format to another was really difficult, or just the admin burden of having to copy and paste all of those templates, cancel all the details out. Just to try and get rid of that manual and repetitive work in terms of what was being done, updating tasks, reminders on tasks. When things weren't getting done, people having to manually go through and request all of those updates by email for tasks and dates that had lapsed. We had collaboration issues. So a lot of, as I'm sure we're all aware, projects span multiple teams, multiple groups. So being able to collaborate in one place. We had different versions of things. So, something goes out in an email and someone updates it, and then you've got 3 different versions of that. So we didn't have any data centralized around that. So it was a real struggle to get things aligned. No integration with any of those bits of software. So nothing that worked in Teams very well, no integration with Outlook, no integration with Jira. So we were using that for cards. And then data silos. So lots of kind of data stored in different places in terms of the effectiveness of those projects and how they were working. We needed to be able to customize. what it was that we were doing in those templates. So we wanted a standard kind of blueprint of a project, but then the ability for different teams to be able to add in additional functionality or change some of that information that was being captured. And we needed a way to kind of work out the permission control. So as Andrew states in Smartsheets, you can look at what permissions are given to different people. So that could be internals or externals, or just different people within the organisation having different levels to be able to change and update those templates. We wanted better reporting and insights. So that was really one of the key drivers for us, being able to see that at kind of programme and portfolio level, where things were up to, where did we need better support. And that's not just support in terms of staff or time, it's support in terms of learning and OD and our organisational development and training support as well. And then we looked at improvements for resource management as well. So particularly around our design and technical services team that do large scale capital projects. So they build their time to particular projects. So we wanted to look at a way to be able to resource manage that project with the resources that we had in hand, and to be able to forecast that over years as well. So we could have a look at terms of recruitment for that team and whether we needed to scale that in any way.
Chad, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
could you give us a sense of the nature of some of the projects that you were running and wanted to sort of run with an improved solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I say, we've got one team doing large scale capital projects. So anything from a couple of £100K making changes to a school up to multi-million-pound capital redevelopment projects. So one of the latest one that I just worked on and supported myself is Stockroom. So that's a £20 million capital project to deliver a new cultural and library space in the centre of Stockport. Through to staff redeployments, through to transformation and change projects, through to kind of digital implementation of different bits of software that span adults directorates, children's directorates, all of our bins, planning, parking. So, you know, the projects that we work on span all of those different departments and a lot of different scales of projects with them as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. So in terms of a bit of the timeline for us in our implementation, so we started off by working with the transformation service, so looking at those transformational projects that we run across the council. And our configuration for that, working with PPS, was to procure some Smartsheet licenses, to put in that control centre so we could manage that at portfolio level. And also adding a set of blueprints and templates for project management. So allowing us to give people a consistent set of blueprints around that project so they get that project plan. So in terms of the assets, so they get that project intake. So we have an intake form for people requesting transformation support for a project. We have the program level, so we get service level dashboards. We have a project plan and then a full RAID log for each of those processes. We then worked with PPS to design a number of workshops to build those templates with service users in order to be able to capture what it was that we wanted to put out there. We initiated the control centre. Andrew helped us with the blueprints and all the automations that go with that. PPS supported us to deliver training sessions to staff members, the kind of core project group that were going to deliver that, and supported us to set up regular training sessions for new users and partners as well. So we started with PPS supporting us with that kind of training. We then moved to an in-house model, so we did a train the trainer session, and then we continually deliver Smartsheets training for new members of the authority that are working on projects with us. So it's a lesser training in terms of, but it gives them the ability to use that Smartsheet and come along that journey on that project with us, so they can directly interact with the tool, update their work, make changes, put comments on there. Around 12 months after we implemented the transformation service, we then auto implemented with the design and technical services. So this is our large capital projects group. So very similar project with the Smartsheet licenses, using Control Center, a different set of blueprints for that service. So they're using the REBA framework for capital projects. So we managed to put together a kind of a project plan that covered all of the activities that need to happen as part of that project plan. And we also implemented resource management as well, which is a tool that allows you to manage those resources against those projects. Process was similar. So we did workshops, so we managed this internally. So we did these workshops to design those templates and make those changes. We adapted and amended the existing blueprint that we'd worked with PPS on, and then we rolled out the resource management project as well. That is reasonably similar in terms of assets. Only difference being there is that we also have a change request form on there as well. So we implemented a couple of other forms in order to have people make change requests to those projects, so we could track those requests, any changes on spend, and then sheets and dashboards with each of those projects. One of the key things that we did alongside this was not just to change the tool, it was also to implement some of those kind of cultural changes that go along with that as well. So we implemented a change toolkit. So it's part of our online intranet. So that spelled out kind of what our transformation service offer was, what our business partnering model was in terms of getting those services on board with using those kind of new tools and techniques, how people requested support from our service. So we had that project intake process on there. What's your project around? So that was all automated, whereas before that was a Word document that got sent out and about, lots of versions. It was, it was problematic at best. But we also included wider tools for that change as well. So wider tools as part of that project. So not just Smartsheets, we included information on Teams, how we might use SharePoint, how we might visualize some of that work with Miro and Whiteboard. So it was just about giving some where for people to go for that kind of change program and how we delivered that. We use Smartsheet to help with our intake process as well. So as I say, we had an online form that allowed us to go through and ask a series of questions. As Andrew mentioned, that form's great because it includes branching. So in terms of the amount of detail that we needed to capture as to whether that was a simple project or a complex project, so we could quickly kind of ask a different set of questions based on the requirements of what people were asking for. It then allowed us to automate that approval process as well. So we could send approvals over to different people based on what directorate that was coming from, who needed to then approve or look at that project, what resources were required. So if they'd put information on there that said it needed IT support or there was a systems change in there, that proposal could then be sent to the right person for them to see what was needed in turn for us to be able to look at the feasibility of that project. In terms of where we're at the moment with our plan usage, so we've got a total number of sheets of just over 6,000 with 186 different workspaces. We usually set up workspaces around kind of areas within the authority, over 3,500 reports and over 1,200 dashboards. Some of those, so in terms of the templates that get set up for each project, not all of those get used. Not all projects need a full RAID log, so there might be some sheets that aren't being used in there, but it's good to have those set of templates. We've had it lots of times where we start on a small project, it expands to a big project, and it's really useful to have those set of templates there.
Chad, again, sorry to interrupt. Can you give us a sense of how people interact with Smartsheet? Is it something, are they sort of using that predominantly from their desktop in the corporate office or working from home, or do you have people actually using it out on the ground, with the mobile app, for example?
So I think we have a variety. Generally, I think people are using from desktop and at home. So we do work hybrid, so there'll be people doing that. We did have a few smaller use cases on projects where additional forms have been made that then people are using out on site. So kind of updates for certain things where people can then fill out those forms and those changes while they're out on site. So we do have a variety of both.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
No worries. So this is just a couple of screenshots of ours. I know Andrew's shown these already, but in terms of assets that we get, so down that left-hand side, this is kind of the information that's kind of pumped out from Control Center when we approve a project and say, yes, please go ahead and set up all those templates for us. It creates all of those assets for us down on the left-hand side. And then one of those assets is that dashboard, which is the one that we tend to send out to the people involved in the project. It gives you a nice, comfortable way of navigating around all those assets on the left-hand side. So it gives you access to all of those sheets. Any reports that are on there are either on that dashboard or as a linkable project on there. So it gives, again, a nice easy interface for people to see all the resources associated with that project. And that's the link I send out, and I ask people to favourite. So if they're working on that project, that's where you go and you can find everything from that one link. On our DTS work, we also added a couple of additional bits in there. So we added in a change control dashboard. So in terms of kind of changes that need to go through on that project. So again, that has an intake form that sits on that front end dashboard. So every one of these gets this new form on there. So just asking for information around that change. That also has some information around what's the cost of change, where's that at? So it gives us that data around all the changes that are being made, so we can again go back up to that portfolio level view and look at all the changes that we're making on those projects. What's the cost of those changes? What's the delay to those changes? Is there a particular value of project to change? So we can have a look at all of those things. We can have a look at the approval routines, who approved those changes, what were the value of those changes. So again, really useful to be able to see that information at all those different levels. And then, as Andrew said, this is just a screenshot of one of our high-level dashboards in terms of status around projects. So how many projects have we got? What status are they at? Where are they at in that REBA life cycle? What are the kind of workflows? Where are we getting our most projects from? Is it from our corporate estate? Is it from our schools? Is it commissions? So we can break down that work and look at them by work stream. And then we've got further dashboards that drill down into the detail on each of these. So that's the really key bit for us. So in terms of outcomes and using Smartsheets and PPS as part of that implementation process, I'd say we've got massively improved project efficiency. Those standardized templates are saving a lot of time in terms of admin, of people having to set all those things up. And the admin of people asking for a template. We used to get that quite a lot. People that come to us as transformation and ask us for a kind of a bucket of resources to be able to effectively run a project in their service. So we can now support them with that by giving them access to those templates and those smart sheets. We've got massively enhanced visibility and transparency across all of our projects. The dashboards can be sent out to senior leaders across all of those services, so we've even built different dashboards around different programs and different levels of portfolio to be able to send, that's easy to build that data's there, so we can just kind of pick and choose and set up those dashboards to pull in the right information, so stakeholders can really track all the progress across projects, risks across projects. We've optimized the resource allocation, so particularly across the DTS service or across those capital projects. So it allows us a very quick visual look at where those resources are, who's working on what projects, who's over-resourced at particular times of the year or likely to be over-resourced, so we can make changes to that. And more long-term view around recruitment as well has been really useful to look at what projects we're starting to onboard. Capital projects, they take years, so we've got time to kind of plan that out, but it's really allowed us to kind of look forward and view some of that resource management and helps with that a lot.
So, Chad, I've got a question here. You mentioned you touched on resource management earlier on, a resource management tool. Is that something that Smartsheet provides, or is that something else you're using?
So that's the Smartsheet provided one. So it's an additional license cost, but it sits and integrates with your Smartsheets as well. So any tasks that you allocate on your Smartsheet, you can have that also pushed through to the Smartsheet resource management as well. So it'll know that those tasks have been done and the allocated resource has been used on that task. So the two things integrate really well.
Okay, thank you.
We've managed to reduce schedule days, so in terms of automated alerts and task dependencies, so we can keep people on track. So we have seen a decrease in the amount of time that we've had to spend chasing people on things. We can look at the particular types of tasks or areas or support of where those delays have occurred. So we can start to predict and mitigate risk around some of those things as well. So the kind of time to complete on things has been really useful to be able to see that over time. We've got better budget control, so particularly around those change requests and changes on projects. So we're able to track and forecast that budget better and changes across time, and much better collaboration. So one of the key things for us is the fact that this works both internally and externally allows us to give access to external partners to update our project plans, so they can directly interact with that, update where things are up to, provide commented updates on there. You can also use Smartsheets to send out to individuals, so you don't have to give them full access to any of the sheets. You can just send an individual row with that information on it, and it sends it out almost like an online form, asking them for an individual update on that task. So it just appears to them as a form, name of the task, the date, and what the update is. And then that adds to the Smartsheet as an update. So rather than that being an email to someone, having to type out all of that information, having to then put that update back into your plan or your Smartsheet, you can run that all directly from Smartsheet. It's a massive, massive time saver. And one of the big things with collaboration for us as well is a lot of our teams use Kanban as a view. So when we were in the office a lot more and weren't hybrid, we used Kanban as a view. So from a collaboration point of view, having that facility to put your project plan, filter it, and then put it in Kanban view was really good, because we can get around that board, have a look at that view, and then really start to collaborate and have the conversations, which are really important. And then we have that scalable portfolio management. So we can easily scale from a project to a program. We can have multiple programs. We can rejig programs. So again, all really simple to do in terms of how we filter and manage those. And then just clear data-driven insights around what we're doing, how long projects are taking. We've got the same data sets around those projects. So we know kind of tasks and how we do those. And those dashboards all feed into project retrospectives as well. So every project has a retro. We record data from that retro, and all that data insight that's gathered from that project feeds into that. So it gives you a good insight. So we're not just relying on people's feelings and thoughts around how that project went and where all those bottlenecks are. We have the data as well. So we can balance those two things out and get a real clear insight and take that learning into the next set of projects and programs. And that's it from me. Happy to answer any questions, and I'll hand back over to you, Peter.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Chad. That's brilliant. So yeah, a couple of questions come through here. So from one from Keith in Portsmouth. Well, he's sort of saying how long did this all take to sort of implement? And I think you sort of answered part of that in terms of, you know, it was over a period, what, 12 months or 12 months and beyond. But the main part of the question here is, how long was it before you started realizing benefits? And secondly, for any other organizations looking to implement something like this, what advice would you give now, having been through the process yourself, to make that implementation even better than it has been?
Okay. I would say, so in terms of kind of implementing it and how long that took, I would say we got from understanding, so we probably took a little bit longer than, you know, going to the second part of the question, one of those learnings, we probably took a little bit longer looking around the wider aspects of it than also looking at the tool as well. So I think using a tool to see what the possibility would have been really useful, because Smartsheet have done a lot of thinking around that. They know project management really well. So a lot of things that they have in place and how it works would have helped us kind of realise where we could have gained some of those benefits from early on. I think we started to realise benefits after probably the first 3 months. It was easy for us to look at, because once we'd launched that process of that intake, the project intake process, and we'll be able to see what was coming in, we'd got standardized questions, we were able to kind of reduce the amount of time and see that quite quickly, that it was taken from someone requesting some transformation support to us mobilizing and getting that project started. So within that first bit and using that first part of that project intake process, we started to realize those benefits. I would say after the first 12 months, was when we were really clear that we wanted to expand to another area of the service. And that was the bit for us when we'd really start to see that higher level portfolio management, seeing all those benefits and views and how it might benefit another service as well.
Yeah.
If I was going to do this again, I would probably, as with most projects, do as much or more engagement with other services in terms of how they use project management, how they might want to engage and use some of those services. So we use Smartsheet on an ad hoc level to support other services with other less traditional kind of projects, or PMs, or managers in service that are running projects as part of their role, but it's not the key part of their role. I think capturing that and understanding the scale and support that we could offer in that area as well would be really useful.
Okay, and I've got I kind of see this as a bit of a connected question, really, from Justin in Hamilton, in terms of support. So having set up and using Smartsheet, what's involved in keeping it running? Okay, do you need to have like administrators, developers? How does that, how intensive is it to run?
Yeah, so it's really not, if I'm completely honest. We don't have a dedicated systems team that run any of this. We've got an individual kind of business relationship manager that sits within each of our directorates that spends some of their time supporting the sheets. But generally, with the automations, it takes care of itself. There are times when you want to do additional dashboards or additional sheets. That's when you need a little bit of resource. But as I say, we don't have any systems teams that are responsible for looking after this. Individual PMs manage their projects. The only other additional kind of support outside of that we do get is from our organisational development team to do those training sessions for people being onboarded to projects. So they run those. I think at the minute they're about once a month, where anyone that's coming on board to a project that wants to jump onto those, they can do that session. That's a half-day session once a month from our learning team to support with that.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you for that. One here from Jules at Doncaster. How have the dashboards been received by execs who traditionally used to sort of PowerPoint decks? Can you share some insights on that side of things?
Yeah, so it very much depends on the level and where they're going. So we will still use PowerPoint decks for particular meetings. But the bit that we will do is we'll just use the screenshots of those dashboards. So rather than being interactive, the data that's on there, just to aid with the kind of facilitation of those meetings, we'll take screenshots from those dashboards and put them into the PowerPoint presentation,
right.
Which is a lot easier than having to kind of put it all into that PowerPoint.
Yeah. You did touch on, I think, using the Kanban views to sort of look at work and manage work. So I'm guessing that some of that is more sort of interactive in sessions rather than reviewing outputs in PowerPoint. So I suppose
exactly
you've got those options as well. Okay, so we're nearly on time for today. Just one final one here from Richard at Calderdale, and again, it sort of echoes what I was going to ask was, so the journey that you've been on, what other sort of opportunities do you think within the council exist for you to put Smartsheet to use in other areas of the council, potentially away from project management? Is that something you've looked at or can see, for the future?
It's not at the moment. Effectively, we're not looking any wider to use this. That's not to say that there's not that possibility there. I think there's lots of scope for other services to be able to use this. And as I say, we've had small use cases where it's not been a huge implementation part of it, but we have used it in different ways for different projects. So we've used it for data capture in terms of kind of feedback on project or feedback on service redesigns. So it's really good in terms of that data capture and to be able to feed that in and do a dashboard from that. So it's, you know, it's kind of taking all of that and automatically doing that dashboard for it. And then it allows us to go in and manipulate and add additional data to that as well. We do use kind of Microsoft Forms for some of that data capture, but we've used Smartsheet because it allows us to then manage some of those responses as they come in as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. So thank you for that. So we're pretty much out of time now. So I'd like to obviously thank you, Chad, for your insights. It's been really interesting and very exciting actually listening to what you've been doing at Stockport as part of the journey, and in particular with the use of Smartsheet for streamlining things. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Andrew. Just to finish off from myself, so from Project Plan Services, thank you for joining this webinar this morning. The recording will be available after the session. Please reach out to us if you have any further questions. Anything, you know, if you want to be able to reach out to Chad, we can put you in touch with Chad. If you've got any questions about Smartsheet, how Smartsheet potentially could be of interest and can help you, or, you know, potentially looking to help you in your organisation, please reach out to us at Project Plan Services. So there will be a follow-up email after this webinar. So thank you for your time this morning. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, we look forward to speaking to you again on a future webinar. Thank you for now. Goodbye.